The longer you're in business, the further your work often gets from what you originally thought you'd be doing. What starts as instinct becomes intention. What starts as hustle requires maturity. On this episode of Executive Lessons in Love, I'm joined by strategist, consultant, and minister Chloelle Bond for a grounded conversation about discernment, growth, and long term thinking. We talk about what it really takes to grow with your business, why more money magnifies what's already there, and how maturity becomes the metric when success is no longer theoretical. This isn't a conversation about hype or shortcuts. It's about sustainability, alignment, and learning when to refine and when to release. I'm Arnitris Strong, and this is Executive Lessons in Love.
And watch your relationship finally grow. You've been the expert all along, just needed someone to show you where you belong. Executive lessons, lessons in love.
Welcome back to another episode of Executive Lessons in Love. Tonight I have the beautiful Chloelle Bond. I am so happy that you agreed to come on and talk to me, Chloelle. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, and I appreciate the opportunity to be here too.
As I was preparing and going over my notes this morning, how the longer you're in business, the further your work usually gets from what you originally thought you'd be doing. And when I look at your work now, it feels very intentional, but I'm sure it didn't exactly start out that way. I think I remember seeing some posts about you doing a little bit of pivoting. So, how do you describe what you do now compared to what you thought you'd be doing in the beginning?
I would say now I'm very dialed in on who I actually serve, and that was a journey, but I think it's a natural progression. Sometimes people say, the riches are in the niches. So people come out the gate really trying to niche all the way down before they even have their bearings, before they even know what the market really wants from them. So I'm happy that I stuck with my gut and just started off with what I really knew to do, which was always like consulting. And I did some business coaching as well. And then over time, just with who was getting the best results, that helped me really go down to where I am now. So just seeing that I worked well with like service based businesses over product based businesses, and actually started off with product based. And then starting to work with some coaches and other consultants and strategists. And then that's when I found out that was really my thing. So going from there, and then before people had access to ChatGPT, I had somebody sneak me on the back end on the low key. So I was using AI a little bit earlier than most people had access to it. And slow and steady, like now that's part of my offers too, because I do believe in innovation and progression, and being responsible. So for me, that's kind of like just watching the results, letting the proof being in the pudding for me. So when I'm looking at, and I tell anybody that after, especially if you're a service-based person that works with like one-on-one clients, like after your every 5 clients, kind of take a moment to pause and say, okay, what do they have in common? What are some things that are similar? What are some things that, like I did across the board or that they got from me? And that can help you tailor further of like where your expertise really is.
I wish that I had someone that had given me that little tidbit of information earlier, because I remember I had a really, really profitable membership, dating membership, but the women weren't getting results. It was like they were coming and they enjoyed the Q&A sessions or venting about what was going on, but they weren't applying the information. And I was like, wait a minute, you know, I need to see some real results. That's one of my love languages. I want to see some results. I don't want us to keep coming month after month after month and we're discussing the same situation. So I had to dial down a little bit further to see, okay, where are the women who are really ready to apply a different strategy? And that gave me some breathing room
even though, like I said, it was profitable, I was getting the money, it still didn't feel good because it wasn't moving the needle. So yeah, I really wish that someone had told me earlier, just kind of look back and see, oh, we used to have 5 clients and see what they had in common. So, something that I keep seeing is really capable people making things more complicated than they need to be. And it's not because they aren't smart, but because they're trying to account for everything. And I guess especially where there's so much noise in the market, and this person is telling you to do this, and this Google is telling you to do something totally different. But from where I sit, how does that show up from where you sit? How does that show up in businesses you work with?
I mean, it even shows up for me. I'm gonna be honest. I think we all can get caught up in that. I think the issue is, especially if you have an online business, is that's really where the entrepreneurs that I work with, there is like such this thought that everyone's an overnight success. So if you're not one, you're doing something wrong. And if anybody's really, most people don't have like a background of business. Like for me, I've done it for like a while in some shape or form. So I understand that sometimes a business, depending on your industry, may not even break even until 5 years or whatever the case is. But now, people say, oh, all you need is a laptop and you're going to make 6 figures in the first year. So when a person doesn't get 6 figures in the first year, now you're thinking, okay, something's wrong with me. I have a deficiency somewhere. This person did it. But what the person doesn't tell you is like this is their fourth or fifth business that they've rebranded themselves 3 other times. And they took those skills into a foundation and now their business hit 6 figures in the first year. There's very rare, like how we see, especially if people like I'm a millennial. So like some people are feeling down about themselves because they're looking at the 20-year-olds on TikTok driving the Lamborghini. And I'm like, we've seen this before with our peers. Like, stop. I think that's a lot of it. It's just this pressure people feel for some reason to like think that again it's an overnight success and only takes posting content and then you're gonna be a millionaire. So when you post and you get crickets because you don't understand how the algorithm works, you get impatient, you don't even have a plan. A lot of people don't have a real strategy. They just kind of say, okay, I want to do this thing and I'm going to post about it for 2 weeks and the money's going to come in, but not understanding even sales cycles. So it's just like a lot of the business acumen is missing because people do get so many sound bites from the master classes and the webinars. And even with that, I'm not going to say it's a bad thing, but again, a lot of people don't have patience to understand strategy. Like strategy, you can implement it, give it at least 30 days, but that's just data. It doesn't mean it's going to work. It doesn't mean it's going to be successful. Most people aren't even tracking during the week what's working. So then 2 weeks goes past, but you don't even know what your KPIs are. You don't even know what KPI is. You don't have a dash. You don't even know the conversations you had during the week. And so I feel like because again, a lot of the basic business acumen is just missing because most of the people who are coming in that are teaching don't really know. They're just teaching like this basic thing and it sounds good. That's what ends up becoming the problem. Because if I told someone, if you have a sales conversation, 9 times out of 10, it's going to take the third or fourth follow up to get a response. Most people don't even follow up. Like I've been there and I've been in sales a long time. And it's not because I didn't know to do it. I just didn't like doing it. I was like, I just
I
want you to
don't
say
like to feel like I'm bothering people. You're right.
that's what comes with the sales
That's
process.
part
So I
of it.
think a lot of people they come in with this false idea of like what it takes to have a business and what it takes to get sales. And especially most individuals who are coming don't have reserves, don't have cash to run ads. So it's like you have to pick your grind. If you don't have the money to expedite the results with like ads or other opportunities or networking opportunities, then you're going to have to initiate your own conversations. And that can be scary and jarring for some people. Some people are terrified. I've known people who won't even do warm leads, people who comment on their,
Yeah, that's the
on their
easiest
post.
one to do.
I had a client like that, and I honestly say she's the only client that never got results from me out of all the clients I work with because she refused to send DMs to people that were commenting. Her thing was she wanted the content to make people DM her, but I'm like, people are having buyers queues.
Mhm.
Send them a DM, get a conversation started. There's money there. But see, a lot of people they're scared to do that. So I just think that's like 99% of the problem is folks just don't understand a business is not having a cute name, a LLC, and a business bank account. You have to grow, you have to be stretched. Like I'm full time now. And like even for that, coming out of that worker bee mentality, that 9 to 5 structure you're used to, And I've done very well just doing my thing on the side, but just going full time, I'm like, girl, it like the time feels different. It's just like, you have to sit down for 8 hours when it was you versus you. That 8 hours, you looked up, you don't have breakfast, you don't watch the show, you don't went and did your laundry, went to the grocery store, and now you're like, oh my God, my sales stuff is not done. So it takes a lot of more mindset and discipline to really stretch yourself and sit your hips down and say, like, what do I need to do to get money here? And like then be willing to do it.
Be willing to do it. I was talking to a friend of mine, telling her how I just wasn't seeing the results that I wanted to see, and I had a come to Jesus moment. And I was like, I gave a hard deadline. Like, if I don't see anything by this time, then I'm just gonna start doing some lifestyle content, cooking, that kind of stuff. And then I have had this. I actually have written out a whole book about approaching love like a business strategy. And I had this idea about executive lessons in love, and pitching this to Fancy was like a last ditch effort, really. But this, the process, it gave me, I fell in love with my business again because I'm starting to see the results. And it's not, like you said, it's not an overnight. It's really building upon the foundation of all the other years of the things that did not work. And I understand how easy it is to get discouraged because, like you said, people are saying you can make six figures and all of this, but they're not telling the whole story. And I think it's time that people tell the whole story about what it really is, more than just a laptop and internet. It takes much more than that. And especially, I'm glad that you made the point about the ads too, because you're saying you make six figures, but you're not talking about how much you spend in ads. You spend half of that in ads. To really get some real traction with ads, you really have to be putting some real money. So, like you said, you got to pick your poison. Either you're going to put the money behind the ads, or you're going to be jumping into some DMs. I love to see it. At a certain point, it feels like more information actually stops helping and starts becoming avoidance. Let me tell you, I was looking for something in my Google Drive folder today, and I was like, oh my God, I had so many courses in there that I have never even opened up, let alone apply the strategy. I was like, why am I hoarding all of this information? It was like I have shiny object syndrome. My God, let me try this. Let me try this. But my Google Drive folder is filled with stuff that I have never even implemented, let alone opened. And it's really ridiculous, but it starts to become avoidance. And I'm curious to see how you see that line.
Let's say I do feel like, and it's sometimes it can be courses or it could be like taking pictures or your branding. It's just busy work make you feel accomplished. Like I am trying to solve this problem. I am trying to get my business going just to cross something off, but it gives us like a scapegoat of doing the actual work because going through a course, I mean, I forgot what the stats are, but a lot of people buy courses, do not finish the courses. I know for me, I really I could probably name maybe like think of like 3 courses I saw all the way through where I actually like implemented every single step because it turns into, I think it's like we live in such like this instant gratification society. So it's like when you don't get that quick win, then you think, okay, it's not working. And then something else comes up that's talking to you. And it's like, oh, I can show you how to do this in 48 hours. You can get this done in 24 hours. Because we're always going to show our best case studies. Like even for myself, I'm always going to share the best case studies. I'm not going to put up front like, hey, I have this one client and they didn't get anything. But I can tell you my success rate, like it's almost 90%. But I'm not going to sit up here and advertise with the person that did the worst. I'm going to show you the ones that did the best. And so that makes us be like, well, maybe I just need to, like tweak this or this sounds better. So you never see it all the way through. And then I think also we forget sometimes that we have to have our own activity. So when you're running a business, you're already swamped under content creation, keeping up with your leads, getting on the sales calls, like even administrative stuff. So then it's like you lose track of even watching the courses and it just starts to pile up. Because nowadays people sell something $7 is meant to pull you because it's just like, what's the rate? $7? And, they'll be like, oh, a trip to Starbucks and you can have 100 new sales calls booked this month. You're like, don't need that latte. But then you don't watch it because now you got your own sales calls book, or you need to do content, or you're going to launch this YouTube channel because you want more distribution. So that kind of goes to the side. And again, if it's not, and a lot of people don't have the ability to build out courses that are going to give you wins. Like that's the only thing I think made, when I did do a course, made it successful, because people were making money in like the first 2 weeks. And I did that on purpose because I know people get impatient. Like you need something now.
Need
A
a
lot of
quick
courses don't
win.
do that. They hit you with like stuff that they did. They're gonna take you down the journey. They got this long blueprint. Watching it alone, the 15,
It's
20 minute,
overwhelming.
the
Like
45-minute, I can't do it. Like I can't sit and watch anybody to fall asleep. So I think that's just, it's just a myriad of things that get involved in that. But a lot of it is still everyone wants, I think everyone, especially now in this market, we're in a trust recession, people just want what works. Like folks are tired of people making big promises and you get in there and it's nothing that you thought it was going to be, or you get in there. Like when I started my agency with the software I was using, I saw something, I bought it just to find out that the only way I could even use after the first module, he's like, okay, after this module, the only way you can do the rest of these modules is if you buy my version of the software. Well, if I would have known that, I wouldn't have bought it because I'm your software. But so that people are just really getting tired of those tactics of like buying stuff and it's not what you thought it's going to be. It doesn't do what it promised, or they're upselling you and they're saying, well, yeah, you're going to get this, but now you need to get this pack of scripts for $47, or you need to get into the $9,000 course to really get the result that you put on the front page. So that's another reason why I think it's not as effective, or like why it's so easy to shift around, because you're not really, a lot of times you're not getting what you think you're going to get in the first place.
yeah, I bought something last week and I was like, uh, I want my $27 back because
Yeah.
I feel like some things need to be, you need to say, okay, this is for a beginning. If you're a beginner entrepreneur, this is or this is intermediate, or who this is for, who is not. I noticed that a lot of smart people change strategies constantly when they don't see what they really need is consistency.
Mm.
When you're working with someone, how do you tell the difference between someone who needs a new plan and someone who needs to stay the course a little longer?
If they have any data, and this is the one thing, this is the boring thing folks don't like to do. I even had a business coach and she told me, when I asked her about tracking my numbers and tracking the activity, and her thing was like, I don't do KPIs. And I was like, okay. Like
That's
the thing about it,
interesting.
a lot of things lie, numbers are not about to lie unless you make the numbers lie. And so
Right.
my thing is, if I go to a person and I say, well, how many clients have you worked with? If they say I've only worked with one person, I only work with 2 people. Okay, you don't need a new plan because you haven't even worked with enough people. You don't have enough. One person is not enough social proof as far as strategy is concerned, and if it's repeatable or not. Because that could have been by chance. That could have came from your net. And a lot of times it'd be like a referral, someone from their network. So you didn't go out and get someone, or like your cousin referred them to you trying to help you get started. That's great, but that doesn't tell me what the strategy is unless you're going to build up on referral. And even then, one person's still not enough to know if what you did is what you need to do. So that's why I've always made the standard of like 5 clients. If they say, okay, I work with 5 clients, then I say, well, what are your numbers? Like, how many sales calls do you do per month? How many sales calls do you normally close? And that's where normally people get tore up, because most people don't know that. And that's why you can't tell the difference if you need a strategy or not, because sometimes you can look and think something's not working, but if you sit down and you have something visual that's telling you like what your benchmark should be, and if you're hitting it or not, then you know if it's working or not. Like when I started a new LinkedIn strategy, I knew, okay, if I'm going to send 50 new connection requests for 4 days. Like for me, I'm like, Fridays, I'm not going to just do any new reach outs. It'd just be like follow-ups. But I was like, what's going to be the benchmark? Okay, my thing is, if I have a 30 to 40% acceptance rate on my connection request, then I know I'm good. So the first time, I think the first 2 days, it was like 20%. So that's a pause. Because now I need to look and say, well, why am I not hitting 30 to 40%? So I made some tweaks and then I hit 30 to 40% consistently. But had I not known what I needed to do, I would have been like, oh, I'm cool. I either been like, oh, I'm cool. And then the time I wasted all that 30 days or 2 months or whatever. And I've been like, well, LinkedIn don't work. I need a new strategy. No, tweak. That's when you know to tweak the strategy. So if they have numbers that I can look back on, even if it's messy, if they don't have a percentage, but if I can kind of look back and you can walk me through, and how have you been making money? Walk me through the process of how you get to a sale. If they can tell me, oh, okay, when I normally do this, then this happens, and this is how people get there. Then I can look and say, okay, how many do you normally get? I can kind of put it together myself, just asking the right questions. So if that's the case, then it's like, okay, now you may need a new strategy, or we may need to tweak the strategy. But if it's like, oh, I only work with 2 people, oh, like I only post like once a week on TikTok. I'm like, you haven't stuck with anything yet.
I recently learned that you're also a minister. And what struck me is that you don't lead with that in your business, but I can feel the formation underneath your work because I'm a PK. I don't talk about that, but I am a PK. But I'm curious about how that part of your life informs how you conduct business, especially how you work with people, power, and responsibility.
Well, I'll say, so one, I don't lead with it because, how can I put it? Because I come from like a space of like being prophetic, and people sometimes treat that like it's a psychic gift. Like I'm gonna look
Yeah, they
into
want
their
to pimp that.
future,
Yeah,
and I don't operate that way. So
right.
that's the number one reason why I do not lead with it. The other reason why is because being in the marketplace, I'm not like a Christian consultant. Like I know there's some people that they only work with other believers, but for me, the marketplace is a marketplace, and I started off like in a secular field, so that's the reason why it doesn't come up as often. But for me, like there's a lot of my clients do have turned out to have some type of faith. So it's allowed me to be able to like have sometimes prayer with my clients before we get on, if they're that type of person or they have some type of trust, because it shows like I have values, I have standards, and I'm never quiet about like my faith in God. Most people know that I'm a Christian, even if they're not Christian, even if they doing other type of stuff. But it's a certain level of respect I get because how I carry it and because I'm bold about it. I don't have to go and bashing people and somebody going to hell, but I'm gonna definitely tell you what I'm here to do and not do. And it's helped me a lot because one thing I realized when I really got into the online space, noticed that people who are intuitive coaches, as they call themselves, are not, they do money rituals and stuff like that. They're not embarrassed about
Not at
that
all.
type.
They're loud about it.
They're loud about it. They talk about it. So for me, I do share like my Christian values and principles. But the ministry thing, I'm gonna be honest, like it's something that I've always done more in the background. And so that's something that I've always served in churches. And I do share, like when I serve at my church every fourth Sunday, there's always a picture on Sunday when I'm always have the same caption, like you already know what this means. Like serving and teaching my babies. But God has really been shifting me to be more out front the last 2 years, like getting more speaking engagements. And I plan to actually launch a ministry myself, evangelistic ministry this spring is coming, that I'm really excited about. My grandparents launched it in the 70s and it went dormant for a really long time. And so my grandmother, she
So you're
gave it to
picking up the
me a
baton.
couple years ago. Yeah, to put life back into it. So I'm just honored that she would even trust me to like put life back into it
Yeah.
and put it out there. So I'm really excited about that. So you probably will see more of that naturally from me. But I think like for me, it was just like a refining phase. And that like, Lord, why me? Don't pick me for this. Like
And
I'm
that's the
cool.
thing. That's the crazy thing. Because there are people that I see and they're chasing after that. But usually the people that are anointed for it don't want it. Like, I know you ain't talking me. You ain't talking to me. That. Yeah.
Gideon on. I was like, Lord, if it's you send me a sign. And like this lady came and was like, hey, like, can I talk to you? And I'm like, no, I don't think so. And like she was just like, it's time for you to do this thing. And then she had circled back to me. I was like really dragging my feet on it. And she had reached out to me like a month later and she was like, hey, did you get started yet? And I was like, no. And she literally passed away like the same week after she told me like it's time, you gotta get
Wow.
going. And that scared me so bad. I ain't gonna
Yeah.
hold you. With her husband post, I'm like, what you mean she gone? She just told me the other. So
My
I just started
goodness.
having so much confirmation, and then people started giving me opportunities, and I'm like, why are you even thinking about me? I ain't even say nothing to you about it. So I felt that push of God being like, okay, let me get you going. Let me get you moving. Like I said, I'm really excited for this year, like when I do get it all together, and yeah, it's gonna be great.
One thing that I see that stands out about your work is that it seems like you work with people who actually have options, which is a very different challenge than having none. When there are multiple good paths, what do you notice about how people tend to choose?
I say it normally comes down to alignment. And when I say that, people put it in a way of like just the service you provide, but it's so much more. And that's why I'm a big proponent of always being like, when I say authentic, like actually being real and standing 10 toes down on like how you talk, how you act, how you think, and letting people see that because that's how people choose. Like that's how anybody chooses. They're going to choose, especially because the work I do is so personal. I always tell people I'm your favorite's favorite because a lot of folks that who seem bigger than me have been in my inbox or have worked with me behind the scenes quietly. And so the thing about it is like people who run into my brand, like they know, oh, she's gonna tell me like it is. She's very direct. She's not gonna handle me with these soft gloves, but she got a little bit of motivational behind her. So I know she ain't gonna beat me up too bad, but they know they're gonna get what they need. So people who have options, a lot of them end up working with me or making that choice because they're at the point of like, I just need somebody to tell me what to do. Like, tell me what it is. Don't hold back. I don't need you to be my friend. Just tell me 1 + 1 = 2 and I'll do the math. So, but if you're the type of person where I've met someone, and that even comes down to the spiritual piece, she really wanted to work with me, but she wanted me to pull some type of like birth chart or human design chart or something like that. So she sent me the link. I looked at it, I said, listen, this against my faith. I can't do that. And I said also, whatever this is doesn't have any bearing on the type of work that I do and the results I get my clients. And I said, no one's ever asked me. So she kept pushing for
You
me to
want you
take
to do
it.
your birth chart?
Yeah, it's like some type of human design or some type
Okay.
of whatever. And I was like, "No, ma'am." And so she kind of went back and forth and was like, "But I really want to work with you." And I said, "So either you're gonna work with me like everyone else does, or I told her, or I know some people that are into what you do that I can refer you to if that's just what's required." So long story short, we didn't work together, and then she kind of got a little ugly, started disagreeing with me on all my posts, and then eventually unfollowed me. Which comes with the territory, it's okay. But
Yeah.
that's what I'm saying. When you have options, we all have options, but you have to choose based on, again, what's in alignment. So whatever is most important for your experience, that's how I see people choose on like, what do you really need to make this an environment where you can thrive and actually get the work done?
You're very grounded when you talk about money. You're not loud, you're not hype driven. But when you think about getting paid well, what do you think people misunderstand the most?
I think they don't understand, like they say, more money, more problems.
Mhm.
I don't think
Real
people
thing?
It is a real thing. I remember the first time I had to owe the IRS and I cried. I yelled at the tax preparer. I had to go back and apologize because that man been doing my family taxes since before I was like almost born. I think I was a little girl. He been around forever. And I thought he did something wrong because I had never owed taxes in my life. So when he had a amount like, oh, you owe, I was like, I'm never using you again. Did you put all this stuff in? And I was just crying. But when I talked to one of my colleagues and she was like, she's a 7-figure earner. And I texted her, I was like crashing down and I was like, sis, I think something's wrong. And she texted me, she said, welcome to the club. And I was like, I hate this
That's what
club.
we're
I don't
here
want to be in
for.
this club anymore. What club is
Yeah.
this? But
Comes with the
people are
territory.
not just with the IRS, but then you have to think about like for me, I need to hire someone to handle my books because I got too busy to do that. Then also you have people, unfortunately, I started thinking you owe them for some reason. So then everybody think you got it now. I have people I hadn't talked to since college be like, hey, I literally had someone, her mom used to work for my mother and she reached out and said, hey, and I'm thinking we're just catching up. And she was like, oh, well, you look like you're doing good. I hate to ask you this. I'm so embarrassed, but could I get some money for my light bill? Ma'am, I haven't talked to you in like 10 years.
Yeah, I don't know you like that.
Someone in another country send me a DM and say, hey, I'm a single mom like you. I need a new phone so I can do my own content and a ring light. Send it, please. Never talked to her before. Even know where she came from, but just I didn't know. So people don't understand that when success in general and like building your platform, people think it's all cute to like for people to know you, be on platforms like this and see you. But when you get it, like even with the people that you came up with, even sometimes with your own family, they'll think I've had that happen to me. People just think I got it. Like someone's like, well, I just figured you have it. Well, what makes you think I have it? Because you don't know what amount of debt I might have been in to get me
But
to
even
this
if I
point.
do, what makes
But
you
even
think
if
you're
I do, I told
entitled
you
to it?
I have it for me
Right.
and the child I'm taking care of. And if there's anything left over, if it's on my heart to give it, I will give it, but there's no obligation. So I think, again, I think that's the part people don't understand because it's not sexy and nobody talks about it. Everybody talks about, buying the properties or doing the investments or, getting the brand shoots and having the luxury, but no one talks about like the headaches and the assumptions and sometimes even the isolation and the loneliness because you get to a point you have to now elevate your environment, elevate your circle. People used to run with, you can't even run with them anymore. You can't trust them anymore. You can't be with them anymore because they're jealous. They're pocket watching. They feel like you owe them and got, it's just unrealistic expectations. And then, it's just so much like on Soul Food, everyone thought Terry was the bad guy and
Yeah,
she was
she was
never the bad guy.
yeah, yeah, she
She was
wasn't.
the
She was
victim.
tired. She was
Yeah, she's
tired of
tired and she
carrying
was the
everybody
victim.
on her back. Yeah.
And that's what it can easily turn into. So that's what I would say a lot of people don't understand about the money. They don't understand you have your own growing up and on the same time, you're growing as a person. And we don't talk about when you get the money, you can sabotage yourself if you have not mentally prepared yourself to have it. Cause I know that happened to me. I had the biggest sales month ever and blew through it because I thought I needed to go bigger and I wasn't even ready to scale. But in my mind, okay, I got to go bigger because I had issues from childhood of like always having to be, be the star student and work really hard. And like for my mom, I love her for the drive she put in me, but that's something she told me she was too hard sometimes because I could get an A, but she's like, that's cool. And I get an A plus. So in my business, I was like, this is good money, but now I need to make more money instead of being like, okay, let's do it again and let's do it again and let's do it again. And now we're going to scale. I was like, now that I did it once, let me do it again. And then I blew
Now,
through
one
it.
time could have been a fluke. You need to make sure you got the process
Exactly.
down. Yeah.
And I didn't have it. And so I blew through it trying to grow too fast and failed, which most people won't want to say that, but failed. And it taught me good lessons. But I wish I would have had the money because I failed at it. And then I had to rack up a little bit more debt to recover from it to kind of bounce back a little bit. So it's like when you're doing your personal, I would just say that'd be the three things. Like no one talks about the personal growth you have to develop because more money mirrors and magnifies whatever's going on inside of you. So if you have vices, it's going to explode those vices. If you have fears, if you have self-image problems, it's going to explode all those problems. And then you're going to fight with people on the outside at the same time.
I always say that relationships are mirrors, and I think business is a mirror too. It exposes those parts of yourself that you kind of keep hidden in the shadows. I don't think that business is not something that you get into if you haven't worked on your
Please
trauma because it's just gonna magnify it.
expose like
Yeah.
just any little thing, any fear you thought you tucked away, you about to see it. Any concern you have, you're gonna be more concerned than if you was
Right.
somebody else's payroll. Like, and if you don't have deep self-belief that you can make it and you don't have any coping skills or you just dysregulate, good luck. That's all
Yeah,
I can say.
I
As soon as
agree.
I went full time, I went back to therapy. I go to therapy once a week on the dot, same time every week because I need that check in. like, because I'm building something so different and so big. And it is, even for me, stretching me with who I know in myself to be, having to show up stronger, higher, go bigger because the business is getting bigger because I'm not starting out with nobody knows me. Now I'm like, like it gets to you at some time because you have identity issues. You're like, really, like, who? And sometimes you'll be like, who am I to be doing all of this? Like, me, they want me to do this. They're asking me to do, and you have to like be like, wait, what is that? Like, why not me? And so I'm like, nah, let me go back and dig a little bit deeper and, make sure that there's nothing that's going to come up to make me stop doing what I need to do.
At a certain stage, growth without sustainability starts to feel less impressive and more risky. When you think about maturity in business, what does that actually look like for you?
Growth, maturity, and business. One is recognizing that I do not know everything. And it is a humbling thing. You have to, in
Mhm.
business, you have to forever be a student. And people hate to hear it, but it's necessary. And I say that because when I worked for a few startups the last several years. And the biggest challenge I had internally as an employee is being hired to do my job well, but then having CEOs that were so insecure that I knew better than they did. But the whole reason why you hired me is because you don't want to do it and you will hope to have someone competent enough to do it well. But that's when you are have a fear of thinking you, and I meet that with people even now. And I'm sure you even, I'm sure met people that could be good clients of yours, but they're so arrogant of thinking they're gonna figure it
Can't
out.
tell them
Oh, I'm gonna
nothing.
just
It's
talk to
like,
this person.
you
And
got
it's
it,
like,
sweetheart.
right. And so that's
I'm not here to convince you. I'm not gonna argue with you. So
And
yeah.
so that's the thing in business is maturing is knowing that at some stages I may not know. Cause especially for us, like for myself, like I know sales and marketing. I have to teach it. I get hired for strategy. But there's been moments I had to humble myself and say somewhere I'm missing it and I'm blind, I have a blind spot. So I
Yeah,
need to
'cause you're too
bring
close
someone
to it.
in.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you up on it. So I've had to have people come in and help me with my sales or help me with my positioning, help me with my messaging and be humble enough to say, okay, if I would have figured it out by now, I would have had it by now. So
Yeah.
obviously, you know, but it happens when we make money, get clients, get to be on beautiful platforms like this. Like you can feel yourself a little bit. You're like, okay, I got it. I know how to do it. But then what a lot of folks understand is like when you hit like six figures, that first $100,000, that's nothing. That's not money. Like once you get it, it's you like, oh, I need you realize real quick. But what a lot of people don't like to release is like what you did to get $100,000 is not going to get you to 1 million.
It's not gonna
9 times
work.
out of 10, you're going to have to throw away what you did and then build something new. And then that feels ugly because it's like, and that's where, like, for me, when I work with my clients, even for them, it's like you're taking my baby and throwing it in the fire and burning it up and said, I can't have it no more. That's how personal it feels because in your mind, you think about all the late nights, all the money you spent to get here, all the webinars, master classes, all the networking events, all the tears you cried, the time you maxed out your credit card 3, 4 times, didn't know if you're gonna be able to pay them things off for real. So when a person comes in and says, now that's nice, but we ain't gonna do that no more, you like, now listen, I gave my life. What do you mean? Like I gave up my life and now I gotta do something else. So it's like that's when you know you have to hit the maturity to trust and say, you know what? I don't know that's when you have to be like, you know what, I don't know everything. And it's either I'm going to stick with what I've been doing and cap myself, or I'm going to grow up. And I told somebody that today. I said, we have to grow with our business. We love to see our business grow, our business scale, our business make money, but then we want to stay the same. And it's like, no, as my business grows, then I need to be somebody else. I need to do different things. Like my son is about to be 10. But so the things I do with him now is not what I was doing when he was an infant. Like when he couldn't walk,
Absolutely
there were
not.
certain things that he needed from me. And now he's like independent. And so I had to mother him differently now that he's growing and developing. And that's making me have to show up different. Like I'm not showing up like sometimes it's like if you don't get up in here and so it's just like we have to do the same thing. And that's what maturity looks like in business, being like, okay, that worked at this stage, but now who do I need to be to get my business here? What do I need to let go of? What do I need to reinvent? And a lot of times it includes ourselves.
I can absolutely say that the opportunities that I'm getting now, my character wouldn't have sustained this when I first started. And, talking about throwing the baby in the fire, like I had a whole meltdown when it was time for me to let go of Blessed Be the Tie and evolve into Love Elevated with Arnitris. It was a whole thing. Like, wait, I gotta get rid of my butterfly logo. I got change my colors. I mean, like literally crying. And Honey is looking at me like, you crying like this about a logo? I'm like, but you don't understand. That was my baby. It carried me through a time when I was struggling. That's all I had was that. But it was time for me to grow up. And I can definitely relate with that. It's not easy letting go. And then that personal part, I was thinking about it earlier, like, wow, especially for Black women. One of the things that I noticed, and you touched on it earlier, you talked about how you reach a goal and you're immediately looking toward the next one. We have to start taking time to celebrate those milestones that we created. Because I had a moment this morning where I was just giving so much grace, so much thanks for what the position that I'm in now. 2 years ago, I would not have even thought that I would be where I am now. And I was like, you know what? I got to figure how am I going to celebrate this? Like, I really need to figure out how I'm going to celebrate because, girl, you doing something. You making some traction now. So yeah, that maturity part is, whew, that's a beast. Well, when I listen to you talk, what I hear underneath all of that, because there's a quiet reservation when you talk, it sounds like discernment really seems to sit at the center of how you operate. And I want to hear how that sounds like in real time. So I always have a game on executive lessons in love. We're going to do something quick. It's called refine or release. I'm going to give you a situation and you tell me if this is something that needs to be refined or if it's something that needs to be released.
Let's play refine or release.
Ready?
Okay.
An offer that sells consistently but requires too much customization.
Refined.
A service people praise but rarely buy.
Release.
A low ticket offer that brings leads but drains energy.
Release.
A high value offer that works but only when you're deeply involved.
I would say refined.
A client who pays well but resists implementing guidance.
Release. Release them, please. Release them.
Immediately. A client base that's growing but feels misaligned with where you're headed.
Refined.
Long-term clients who haven't evolved but still expect access.
Release.
A strategy that worked last year but feels harder to sustain now.
Release.
A platform that brings visibility but no conversion.
Refine.
Growth that's coming at the cost of delivery quality.
Growth that's coming at the, I would say refine on that one.
Staying vague to appeal to more people.
Release.
Continuing something mostly because it's how you were known.
Release.
What comes through really clearly listening to you is how intentional you are about sustainability. How did you come to think that way?
Honestly, I would say my mom. My mom wasn't an entrepreneur, but she's always been a director. And for her to be a Black woman and like the different companies that she's worked for, that's something that I saw her implement. And like some of the programs, she's always worked in long-term healthcare and like the food service. So just watching her like implement programs and her putting things in that not only like the residents there could enjoy, but it was efficient. It stayed within budget. It was something that elevated the reputation experience. So even though she wasn't, it's not a business, it taught me a lot about like seeing her be able to implement stuff without wearing out the staff, without needing new people, without bringing in new hires, staying within budget. But again, bringing in like good experiences. And a lot of those programs, even though she doesn't work for certain groups anymore, they're still there. Even she just said she did an interview, a really big hospital is looking at getting her potentially. And they told her just based on her interview, there's things they're implementing, even though she's not going to be taking the position. So it's just like
Like a
that's where I learned a
consultant
lot of
fee.
so I learned a lot about sustainability from her because like when you're dealing with food particular, like you gotta be careful with your resources and your inventory and you gotta really be like on it. So watching her be meticulous like that and like be able to think long term and again give account for like all the labor and the costs and stuff like that, that's what gave me, I think just seeing that in real time gave me like a good idea of how to look at things.
Okay. At this stage, what do you find yourself paying closer attention to than you used to?
I'm starting to pay more attention to people's character in a way. Coming in, it used to be more so about popularity, who liked them, how many people liked them. And then you learn real fast, like you can buy your PR articles. So you might be in Forbes, but you probably paid for your feature in Forbes.
Right. That Forbes council or whatever that thing was.
Yeah. So all those, you can buy a little article on entrepreneur.com. So it's just I've learned to really, before jumping out, really taking time to do due diligence on learning the person, seeing how they show up. I read comments, especially how you act when a person disagrees with you tells me a lot. when I ask a question, how you treat me in the conversation tells me a lot. Cause I know there was a situation where I was looking at potentially getting some help for my sales process and I was vetting a couple different people. And I think sometimes we all get a little delusional that, a person gonna run into us and just pick us. Like there's not like who I mentioned earlier, people have options and like people are
Yeah.
me, they have options. And I had reached out to this person and me and her, I thought we were cool. She seemed like a decent person, but when she told me about the program, I just knew it wasn't a good fit for me. So I just let her know, so she instantly like in the DMs like, okay, you want me to send you the link to sign up? And I'm like, no, I don't think it's a good thing. So then it turned into the mindset trick, you know, trying to tell me
I
that,
hate when people
maybe I
do
have a
that.
fear. I have a fear around. So I told her, have you made any updates to the course? And she's like, no. And I'm like, well, we're not even in the same climate. And I pay attention to market trends. So I already knew where we are now was already starting to happen. So I'm like, 9 times out of 10, this won't apply in like the next 6 months to 12 months. And that's a bad investment in ROI for me. I don't want something that I can't go back. I'm gonna have to like pay somebody else in 6 months. That's not
Yeah.
a good thing. So long story short, because I told her I wasn't interested, she let me know she's going to use it as content, which I thought it was a disrespectful thing. And so even though she put my name in it, she did do this really long form piece of content about how people will know like to get the help, but then don't take the help. And that's not what happened. I just chose somebody else.
Yeah.
Like, looking like I am hiring somebody. I just didn't, and I did. And I actually paid the other person more. They cost more than what she was going to charge. But I knew that it wasn't the right container for me. So I paid what I needed to pay and I got the results I needed to get from the right person. So that's why I've really taken time to really feel people out and that I'm happy the space is like that now, period. Like folks thinks this trust recession is a bad thing. It's a good thing
It's a
because
very good thing.
and I tell people all it is that how business has been done on the outside has now came online because none of us are going to restaurants anymore, plumbers. We're not going to clothing stores anymore without doing what? Going on our phone, checking Google reviews,
Checking
going on
Google
social
reviews.
media, looking at what people say. And I'm that person on Google where I go to the new, like I go to reviews and hit newest tab. Let me see what
Yeah.
they said in the last 2 weeks, week. Cause some businesses, if I'm like, you haven't had a review in a year, why is that? That's
Yeah.
weird. Why
That's
nobody?
a red
So,
flag.
so now people are carrying that type of suspicion on the online space. And I laugh a lot. So
But yeah, I was looking at somebody that I was thinking about working with, and I have been looking at her for a while. And like you said, you look at comments. I looked at comments on some little shady something she did. And it was a photographer's post. And she was engaging in the post like she was interested in this service, and then turned around and said that her husband was a photographer. And I was like,
yeah.
"Hmm, did she set up a lemonade stand on your post? Cause that's
Mhm.
what you did, and you were sneaky about it." Character, it matters to me. It really, really matters to me.
That's all it. I know when I started gaining traction and I started like my audience started growing. And then there were people that start off being cool with me, and then they don't want to be cool anymore because they felt like, oh, it's almost. One of my friends had worked with one of them, and like when there was this whole drama, and she came to me, she said, "Sis," she was like, "There, she getting like that because now you're being tagged in the same thing she's being tagged in. Now people are recommending both of you, like you not beneath. She don't look.
But
She
there's
sees you.
enough for everybody.
That's that scarcity mindset. That's that scarcity mindset of like somehow in my mind, I work like this. If a person doesn't choose me, they weren't for me. They are gonna work with me, gonna work with me. There's billions of people on this planet. So if somebody goes to my peer, great, because that means the person that leaves space open for the right person to come find me and
Absolutely.
sign up with me. But a lot of people don't operate from that mindset. It's like this all or nothing or like, oh, like, and I get it. It can be in a sense, we do have competitors in a sense, but if you're again moving out of scarcity and you thinking that there's not enough money in the world, there's not enough people in the world, then you're gonna be that way. So that's why I said for me, I like to be Inspector Gadget. You're not about to rush me, do mind flips on me, mindset me. You're not about to tell me, well, what's gonna happen if I don't? Well, I'll be in the same position tomorrow. What about it? Like and
Yeah.
I'm still not taking out my credit card.
What are you more convinced of than you were a few years ago?
I would say now I'm more convinced that there's more experts now than there were then. The only difference, and it's because, back then again, all you had to do was come on, do a couple lives, post some content, maybe show a fake Stripe receipt, and you in there.
Okay, page Stripe receipt.
But now people are like, oh, I saw that Stripe receipt like 3 times today and can tag the 3 accounts they seen it on. So now I'm more convinced that there's more. It's not going to, we're always going to have some wolves in sheep clothing. That's just like the name of the game. But I feel like now the position we're in, there's a lot more people that are actual experts because people are craving the authenticity and because people have already invested and already been burnt. People know what's real and fake now. So all this like showing your cars and houses, a lot of people are just going to cross you off. They're not interested in it anymore. Their thing is like, can I get something from you and work? Did the $7 tool do what it promised? Did the membership bring me to where I'm supposed to get to? So now I feel like there's so much more pressure for people to show and prove. So I think it's eliminated. A lot of folks have been realized, like a lot of business owners are back at work now, close their business down, new industries now,
Yeah.
because they can't last in the space they were in because you can't hold it. People, they know that the reality is gaining up on them. So I'm been happy to see it.
This has been an amazing conversation. What feels important for you to stay honest about right now as we get ready to close?
What feels for me to stay honest about? I would say the biggest thing that I've really been on is just that business takes work. Like even for myself, I try to be very like about that, like even in my own content, just being intentionally responsible to let people know like you have to work. Like there's nothing that I or anybody else will give you that's just going to make this be like I can get you a win in the first week, but it's not going to be something that's going to carry you every week to week. You're going to have to continue to build. You're going to have to continue to pivot. You have to be willing to grow. So like, that's what I'm really on right now. Like the thing that I'm being most honest, even with myself, is like, you don't have to be hustle and grind, but you're going to have to work. You have to do something.
But I have to work. I love it. So as we get ready to close, Chloe, I want you to let everybody know how they can follow you, what you're working on, what offers you have, and where to find you online.
You can find me on Facebook with just my name. You'll find me LinkedIn. That's really starting to become my jam. I love it over there. So you can hear with my name too. I have a YouTube channel underneath my agency name, so Maison Bond Agency, and I run a growth agency. So we work with anywhere from a solo founder all the way to enterprise, and it just depends on the level of support you need. So I do strategic advisory, where I can come in and diagnose what's going on with your revenue capping, do an implementation plan, and then also optimize so you get the best results. Anything from providing paid ads and also deploying AI agents is really still new. I've been a little bit more quiet about it, but it's ramping up. So we'll probably see more about that too.
Hey, all right. Well, thank you so much for coming on.
One of the quiet truths in this conversation is that growth doesn't ask what you want. It asks what you can carry. In business, money reveals capacity. In relationships, love does the same. Maturity isn't about reaching for more. It's about becoming someone who can sustain it. At a certain stage, information stops being the issue. Discernment becomes the work. Whether you're choosing a strategy or a partner, maturity looks like knowing the difference between what needs refining and what needs releasing. Love doesn't reward urgency. It responds to wisdom. Alignment isn't just about what you offer. It's about who you're becoming. In business, misalignment creates burnout. In love, it creates confusion. Maturity teaches us that alignment isn't something you say, it's something you live. Success doesn't fail people. Immaturity does. Love doesn't break us. Lack of preparation does. In every area of life, the real question isn't how far can I go? It's who am I becoming along the way? Because maturity is the metric.